This video is sponsored by Normandy 1998, Christopher Mitchell, 212th Trooper, Sylar 1610, Rune Scribble, Legendary Ray Ray, Hitsu the Kitsune, and Arctic Ace, and brought to you by Normandy 1998 who requested this topic. If there is a video you want me to make, just head over to Patreon or become a channel member, and select the Pickle Producer tier, since among other benefits, you'll get to make a video request every month, be it the continuation of an existing series or a brand new story. Now, before we get into today's story, I just want to ask you to do me a favor, hit that like button since it tells YouTube you enjoy what I do, and check whether you're subscribed since only about a quarter of my viewers are, and it's a free way to keep up to date with all my content. In return, I'll do all I can to keep making regular quality content for you. Thanks, and let's hop in. Returning to Grindcore, the Decepticons are in the midst of collecting themselves after the battle. While technically it was a victory for them, since their enemies were forced to retreat, Megatron cannot help but feel that it was a loss, since now Optimus is reunited with his allies and even managed to recover the Starsaber, making him a threat to the hegemony he has established. Casting his red optics over his troops in search of someone to blame, the Decepticon warlord quickly settles on Knockout, a furious snarl bursting from his lips as he roars that this is his fault. He had the entirety of the Autobot forces under lock and key. Not only did he manage to lose them, but he also let Optimus Prime and that ragtag bunch of rejects breach his perimeter entirely undetected. Such a failure cannot be overlooked. A fact Megatron makes clear as he levels his T-Rex cannon at Knockout's processor, though before he can fire the shot that will put him offline permanently, an unexpected jolt of pain races up his arm, causing him to hiss and recoil slightly. Having the keen eyes of a physician, this is not lost on Knockout, who smartly questions if Lord Megatron's new upgrades are hurting him. Perhaps it wasn't so wise to let Shockwave play doctor with him after all. Turning his pain into anger as he always has before, Megatron growls that Knockout should consider his next words very carefully, since he is in no mood for his insolence. Though maintaining the snarky demeanor for which he is known, the Red Racer replies that he is simply wondering if there may be some unintended side effects of this experimental procedure that a bot like Shockwave, who only sees results and logic, might have failed to consider. Grunting dismissively, Megatron chides that this is spoken like a true coward. If it were up to Knockout, they never would have taken the chances they needed to achieve greatness. But fortunately, he is not as weak-willed and sniveling as the Doctor, since while this form may test him, he will not yield to it, just as he has never yielded to anything in his life. Instead, he will fully bend it to his will and use it to crush the Autobots. With this grand declaration, he next turns to Dreadwing, instructing him to summon all their forces across the planet, since the time has come to bring an end to this war, once and for all. Meanwhile, over with the Autobots and Dinobots, they have at last reached Iacon. Though, just like them, the city has seen better days, showing clear signs of bombing, ransacking, and general neglect in the countless cycles since the fall, with it seeming that either the power of the Omega Lock did not reach it, or it was Megatron's cruel choice to leave it in ruins. Nonetheless, to Optimus and his team, it looks like home. And having relieved RC so she could get some rest, Magnus guides the dropship down to land outside the Hall of Records. Even in its battered state, there is a simple majesty and solemnity to the hall, one that Optimus takes care not to disturb as he leads the others inside, a mix of nostalgia and sorrow coursing through him as he sees familiar sights from his days as Orion Pax, most of which have been destroyed thanks to a war he helped start. Nonetheless, if he and his allies can prevail here, then perhaps the city can be returned to its former glory as a hub of knowledge and hope, and in time, so can all of Cybertron. That is what he is fighting for, and will continue to fight for until the battle is done, till all are one. Ascending the winding stairs, they dare not risk the long-disused lifts. The group eventually reach the office of Alpha Trion, a spacious yet simple room, filled mostly with various records, all arranged lovingly around the unassuming desk where the old archivist conducted his work. Aside from that, the only feature of note is a chair in the back corner, with what appears to be a personal datapad resting on the seat. Wondering if this could be some last missive from his old master, Optimus gingerly reaches for the pad, though even before he activates it, he suspects this did not belong to Alpha Trion, as it is far too modern for the sagely bot, and has a number of dents that suggest it belonged to someone who did not exhibit his mindfulness. Having barged in behind Optimus, Grimlock growls that he thought Prime was leading them somewhere important, not to some dusty old scraplet hole full of worthless records from before the fall, a claim that earns sharp rebukes from Ratchet RC and Magnus, though brushing them off with a snort, Grimlock instead demands to know what the red and blue bot has in his servers, snatching it up before Optimus can explain. as if it is used to rougher handling. This causes the pad to burst into life, the faint blue light reflecting in Grimlock's red visor, while something on the screen makes his jaw clench. By now, several more of the Autobots and Dinobots have made their way into the office too, and upon seeing the contents of the pad, their expressions similarly shift, often taking on shades of shock, sadness, or in the case of the Dinobots, anger. Recognizing this must be something truly significant to elicit such a range of reactions from his comrades, Optimus approaches the group, only to understand completely as he sees the 4 words of text on the screen. "Welcome, Elite Guardsman Smokescreen." Suddenly looking as though he wants nothing to do with the pad, Grimlock gruffly shoves into Optimus's servos, before storming away with such ferocity that several of Alpha Trion's perfect piles collapse around him. While stepping forward, Snarl grunts that he'll see if he can get in, since maybe Smokey's Elite Guard files will tell them something useful. Yielding the pad much more gently than the Dinobot captain did, Optimus takes a seat in the chair, which he now suspects his mentor gave the rookie so he wouldn't need to be on his feet all day. From this vantage point, he can see the whole room clearly and partway down the corridor too, though he imagines the tactical benefit of this position was seldom if ever needed, since even in the height of the war, the archive remained a place for safeguarding knowledge. It would have been a peaceful posting, perfect for an old war-weary soldier like him, but for a young glory seeker like Smokescreen, it must have been interminable. However, Optimus is not given long to reflect, as after a surprisingly short amount of time, Snell proudly announces that he's in, smirking this was nothing compared to cracking con codes, and that if the Autobots survive this, maybe he'll overhaul their security system for them. Modestly, Optimus replies that he would be grateful for the engineer's expertise. Then as he takes the datapad from him, he begins looking at the files Smokescreen had bookmarked. From a glance, they appear to be historical records, covering the early days of the war with the Decepticons, Zeta Prime's uprising against the Quintessons, and even the War of the Primes back in the Age of the 13. All of them tales of great heroes and battles they fought. Of course, how else would a bored young bot with dreams of being a warrior fill his cycles while trapped in the Hall of Records? Finally, Optimus reaches the last story Smokescreen was reading, Nexus Prime's battle against the Fallen, who had once been his brother Megatronus Prime. Though the Fallen had been a superior warrior, Nexus had turned the tide with his own relic, the Enigma of Combination, a device capable of allowing multiple Cybertronians to merge both in body and spark, and through doing so become greater than the sum of their parts. However, it was said that those who combined were never quite the same, with some even losing themselves to the amalgam forever. After what feels like an eternity, Jack breaks the silence, asking if Optimus found anything, and turning his optics first to the small humans and then up to his Cybertronian comrades, he admits that there may be a way to defeat Megatron, just as it helped in the downfall of his namesake, though it is a slim hope, and a costly one. Curiously, Bulkhead asks what the boss bot is talking about, to which Optimus recounts the story of the Enigma, and while the Autobots let out hopeful murmurs at the possibility of this relic, the Dinobots scoff, with Slug pointing out that this is all well and good, but how are they supposed to find this lost item before Megsy and his cons come crashing down on their heads? Meanwhile, Grimlock makes the unbidden, but not altogether inaccurate point, that so far Prime relics have been more trouble than they're worth, since the Forge of Solus Prime has fallen into the hands of their enemies, while the Starsaber wasn't enough to take out Megatron's new monster form. Sighing deeply, Optimus confesses that the boss Rex is right, though at present it is their best plan of action, so he needs them all to fan out and search the archives for any trace of where the Enigma of Combination could be hidden. Since if it was not among the Iacon relics sent off-world, then logic would dictate it is still here, possibly even within the city if they are truly fortunate. Understanding the assignment, the Autobots, humans, and even Dinobots file out of the office, all except for Ratchet, who makes his way over to Optimus, both to check on his old friend, and because he knows such concerns are best discussed in private rather than in front of the troops. Knowing what the Docbot must be thinking, Optimus confesses that he has not forgotten the monster Bruticus that came about when the Combaticons combined, nor how great a threat it posed to them during the war with its savage, destructive impulses. However, he is hopeful that was a side effect of Shockwave's mad science, that by using the true path to combination as passed down by Primus, they will not suffer the same fate. Smiling grimly, Ratchet states it is this latter point he wishes to speak with Optimus about, since he already knows the Prime has decided he must be one of the components of this potential combiner, as he is unwilling to force that risk on anyone else. Fine, he won't attempt to talk him out of that madness, but to carry this out, he'll need a partner, preferably with enough sense to counterbalance his habit of self-sacrificial nobility, so it might as well be him. After all, they've shown themselves to be an effective team for stellar cycles, and if something were to go wrong, then he would be on hand to help. Sighing once more, Optimus thanks his old friend for the kind offer, though he's afraid he must refuse, since Ratchet is far too important. Spluttering indignantly, the Dogbot sarcastically questions whether Optimus is not, to which the Red and Blue Bastion replies that Ratchet has an irreplaceable gift for saving lives, something they will sorely need in the battle to come. In contrast, others share his, Optimus's, skill set, since Bulkhead is just as capable a warrior as him, while Magnus is a wise and just leader who he has every confidence could helm their cause. For that reason, he cannot ask the two of them to assist him on this mission either, since should he fall, they can take his place. Scowling deeply now, Ratchet protests that Optimus thinks too little of himself, though in his sagely voice, the Autobot leader retorts that he does not want his friend mistaking his words for false modesty or self-denigration. He is proud of the role he can play for their cause, though now his highest and best use is to offer himself to the Enigma and trust that his strength and fortitude will allow him to remain Optimus Prime when all is done. Recognizing that his leader has made up his mind, Ratchet does not protest any further, instead asking how he can help, to which Optimus asks if he remembers anything from his days studying to be a doctor here in the city, anything that might tell them where the Enigma of Combination is hidden. Shaking his head, Ratchet apologetically admits that he has no idea, since he was never one for mysticism or history. That was always more the purview of an idealistic young data clerk, if memory serves. Chuckling fondly in spite of the dire situation, Optimus muses that his old friend knows him well, though no sooner has he said this than he lapses into a deep, thoughtful silence, as if some new puzzle piece has been revealed to him. Noticing this, Ratchet questions what's wrong. Though sounding reinvigorated, the Red and Blue Bot retorts that he has just realized something. Alpha Trion also knew him well, and with the Covenant of Primus giving him a degree of prescience, he may have known he would come here seeking the Enigma, and left them a clue. Unable to fight off the same inklings of hope that have reached Optimus, the old medic questions if his friend really thinks so, and more importantly, if he has any idea where this clue might be. Nodding thoughtfully, Optimus admits that he does have a hunch, since it would need to be hidden innocuously enough as to not interest scavengers or the Decepticons, but in a place where he would think to look for it. Fortunately, there is one place in these hallowed halls that only holds significance to him, hidden amongst thousands of identical peers, though if he is correct, the key to saving Cybertron may be waiting for him there. Taking off at a purposeful pace, Optimus with Ratchet by his side descend back the way they came, leaving the row of executive offices in favor of the Archive's common area. Here rows upon rows of desks stretch as far as the optics can see, all in various states of disuse and disarray. It is also here that they find Grimlock, who in his characteristic roughness is tearing through the workstations with little avail, though upon spotting them, he crassly asks if they're here to watch him do all the work like usual. Having no desire for hostility, Optimus explains his theory that the location of the Enigma could be hidden here, to which the Dinobot captain grunts that they'll see about that, his evident skepticism written all over his faceplate as he follows the pair. Finally, after several minutes of walking, they reach their destination, a desk like any other, though to Optimus it is so much more, as it is soaked in memories, having once been the workstation of Orion Pax. Evidently feeling far less sentimental, Grimlock sneeringly asks if this is really it, a desk and a chair. He slagged 50 of those before the two Autobots even got here. Testily, Ratchet asks if the Dinobot intends to shut his drive shaft long enough for them to explain. Though refusing to stoke the argument, Optimus simply states the personal significance of this place, before unslinging the Starsaber from his back and laying it on the desk so he can bend down to search the drawers and floor. However, it seems this won't be necessary, as the moment the ancient blade touches the workstation's surface, it lights up, with Optimus finding himself back in the strange nether space where he first received his message from Alpha Trion about the Omega Keys. Once again, his old mentor is here, or at least a projection of him, as he admits that he is pleased Optimus was able to follow his clues, as he will need his wits if he is to find and properly harness the Enigma of Combination. Despite knowing this is only a recording, Optimus cannot help but implore the sage to tell him where it is, and having anticipated this response too, Alpha Trion reveals that before leaving Cybertron, Nexus Prime entrusted him with the Enigma. In order to keep it out of the wrong servos, he constructed a series of chambers beneath the Hall of Records, each containing a challenge that must be overcome in order to reach the artifact. Though he cannot tell Optimus how to pass these trials, he has faith his old student will manage, so long as he remembers the words passed down from Primus to the 13, and which have echoed through Cybertron's history, till all are one. In a flash, Optimus is back behind his old desk, while his auditory processor rings with the sound of Ratchet and Grimlock calling for him with varying degrees of urgency. While at first the truckbot believes this is concerned at his sudden trance state, when he is able to focus enough to actually listen, he finds that the reason is far more grim. Bumblebee and Swoop have just reported a massive Decepticons, Iacons, and Insecticons coming by land and air, with it appearing they are all headed for the Hall of Records. Gathering his allies as they have no time to waste, Optimus fills them all in on what he has learned, and how he now believes the Enigma of Combination is their only chance to defeat Megatron. To that end, he is going to descend into the chambers beneath the archives to try and retrieve it, while he needs the rest of them to hold the line, since if the Hall of Records is overrun, he will not be able to complete this mission. Or worse, the Decepticons will get their hands on the Enigma, and gain the ability to create true combiners. Nodding resolutely, Magnus vows to lead the troops in Optimus' absence, while huffing derisively, Grimlock grunts the only one commanding him and his pals is him. Knowing nothing will come from the ardent rule-follower and stubborn renegade arguing, Optimus tells them not to worry about rank right now. What matters is they are all allies, and they need to work together if they are to have a chance of survival. Begrudgingly accepting this, the pair turn away from each other and begin rallying their subordinates. While wishing them all luck, Optimus descends into the archive's depths. By now, the enemy horde is close enough that when they look out the windows, the Autobots and Dinobots can recognize individual adversaries. Dreadwing and Soundwave soaring above, while Shockwave's Cybertronian tank form and Megatron's purple T-Rex make the ground quake beneath them. Recognizing they only have a limited time to establish their formation, the heroic bots set to work, with RC, Magnus, Bumblebee and the humans boarding the dropship, while Bulk joins the Dinobots on the ground outside the Hall of Records, and Ratchet reluctantly prepares a triage center, since he fears such a thing will be necessary before the battle's done. Then it happens. The shadow of evil falls upon Iacon as the sheer number of flyers block out Cybertron's sun, while the streets of the city rumble under the weight of the invading army. Despite the seemingly hopeless odds, the Autobots and Dinobots do not hesitate to meet them, with Bulk and the ruffians charging headlong into the approaching swarm of Iacons and Insecticons, while RC pilots the dropship into the massive enemy aircrafts, allowing B and Magnus to begin blasting them from either side. Even Jack, Raph and Miko help where they can, pushing any remnants of the ship's cargo down into the heads of unsuspecting cons, so that soon the plaza of peace and knowledge is lined with the bodies of the dead. Against such valiant defense, the first wave starts to crumble, with Iacons and Insecticons falling by the dozen. But then, the thin air seems to chill as the sound of wings cut through the battle, carrying a heavy, sharper and more deliberate weight than the swarm. This is Dreadwing, eager to vanquish Autobots in the name of his master, his missile bay now modified to carry the Forge of Solus Prime. While beside him, Soundwave drifts like a shadow, silent and attentive as ever. Meanwhile, down below, the shaking of the ground grows more intense as Shockwave exits his tank configuration to survey the battlefield with a single glowing optic, already scanning for the most logical means to inflict maximum devastation. And behind them all, looming at the far end of the street, stands Megatron, content to watch as his three lieutenants bleed the Autobots and Dinobots dry, as the only foe he deems worthy has not yet shown himself. Though their views on most things may differ, the arrival of these fearsome Decepticons elicits the same response from both Magnus and Grimlock, as they zero in on their primary target. In the case of the former, Dreadwing is the only bot for whom Magnus has optics, as the time has come to settle this feud between them as the second-in-commands of their respective factions, while Grimlock, along with all his Dinobot brethren, bellow, as the chance to scrap Shockwave finally presents itself. Though, shockingly, it is Magnus who acts first, calling out to Dreadwing as he demands a duel, one-on-one with no tricks. As he had hoped, such a challenge stokes the Decepticons' warrior pride, with the Seeker agreeing as he touches down in a clearing the Iacons and Insecticons make for him. Nodding stoically in recognition of this, Magnus instructs BRC and the children to maintain their current strategy until he tells them otherwise. Then, with a surprising amount of rigid dignity for such an act, he steps off the side of the ship and lands in the middle of the clearing, ready to begin his battle. Meanwhile, exhibiting far less decorum, the Dinobots charge in their beast modes, tearing through anything dumb enough to stand between them and Shockwave. Unfortunately, there are quite a lot of them, as just like during the war, the Insecticons are Shockwave's primary attack force, and are now intent on keeping those threats away from their master. Though, this is more of an annoyance than an actual impediment to the Dinobots, since what's another bug hunt to them? Or at least, that's what they think until Shockwave opens fire, having no compunctions about shooting through his own troops if it is the most logical and optimal way to land a critical blow on his enemies. This makes things difficult, as it means the Dinobots cannot see an attack coming until it has torn a hole through the Insecticon directly in front of them. Subsequently, the Cyclopean scientist manages to get off several good shots, none of which are lethal, but all of which deal wounds to the Dinobots' bodies and pride. Luckily, Grimlock has a very simple solution. Fire, as by belching a torrent of flame, he is able to incinerate the row of bugs menacing him and his friends, so that when Shockwave unleashes his next shot, they see it coming and are able to dodge. Recognizing a winning strategy, Snarl, Slug, and Swoop all form up behind Grimlock, with the boss Rex leading the charge as he blazes a path forward. Then, when they finally reach Shockwave, it is he who takes the first bite, clamping his mechanical jaw around the Decepticon's arm cannon and tearing away the thick cable that connects it to his back. While Shockwave is not the type to scream, the Dinobots can tell this must have hurt from the way that he recoils. Though, as they return to their bot modes and draw their various weapons, they each smirk that there's a lot more where that came from. As the battle rages overhead, Optimus at last reaches the entrance to the chambers Alpha Trion had spoken of. For the most part, it is a large, unassuming door spanning the length of the room, while on either side a winch dangles a thick cable with a loop at the end. Looking around, the Autobot leader finds a pair of brackets affixed to the opposite wall, and using some simple deductive reasoning, concludes that he must fit these loops around the brackets to hold the door open so he can enter. Stepping forward with a sense of purpose, Optimus wraps a servo around one of the cables, though when he attempts to pull it to the other side to grab the second rope, he finds that the winch has no sideways give, so it seems he will have to do these one at a time. Accepting this is an unfortunate reality of the trial, Optimus then begins to pull, with each step causing his pistons to creak and his cogs to grind, as he attempts to carry what feels like the entire weight of Cybertron on his shoulders. Though, before he can even get a quarter of the way across the room, he comes up short, as the winch locks and the cable goes taut, all the while the door behind him doesn't budge. However, refusing to be thwarted when his friends are risking their sparks to buy him this chance, Optimus immediately shifts gears, rather literally as he transforms into his truck mode and revs up, all the while trying to tow the cable just an inch closer to the bracket. Unfortunately, that inch may as well be 1,000 miles, as in spite of all his efforts, it does not move, with the backlash instead lifting Optimus onto his back wheels before he crashes in a heap. Were that not bad enough, without his resistance to keep it in place, the cable starts to recoil, dragging him with it, so that a second later, he is back at the beginning, while the cord hangs limply from the winch. Nonetheless, he does not give up, rising to his feet once more with the intent to keep trying however many times it takes to succeed. Though, as he is about to learn, it is not repetition that he is lacking, as when he reaches out to grab the cable again, he sees a series of ancient Cybertronian runes engraved beneath the first winch that read, "Equal in strength." Wondering if this could be a clue, the red and blue bot then makes his way over to the other winch, where he is pleasantly surprised to find more runes, though these ones carry the inscription, "Equal in will." Furrowing his metallic brow as he attempts to decipher what these cryptic carvings could mean, he continues to look around until his optics fall upon a third set of engravings, though this is split so that one rune is above the first bracket and the second is above the other. Alone, these two symbols mean nothing and could easily be mistaken for a random carving or crack, though when read in tandem, they spell out a single word, together. At once, the meaning of this trial becomes painfully clear, as Optimus realizes that even the strength of a prime cannot open this door alone. In order to pass, he must find someone who is his equal both in strength and will. No doubt this partner will also need to accompany him for the remainder of these challenges, which means removing one of his already limited number of allies from the battle above. But who should he bestow this burden on? who is also his equal in both will and strength. Back in the plaza, Grimlock roars, as once more his burning blade rakes a slash across Shockwave's chassis. While it is not a lethal blow, it is yet another wound, and soon he'll land one that the mad scientist won't be able to get back up from. All around him, his comrades circle Shockwave, slashing, swiping, and snapping at him, as each of them is eager to deal the finishing blow against their tormentor. Though, as their leader and the strongest among them, Grimlock's confident it'll be him who offlines the sadistic piece of Cyclopean scrap. That is, until he feels his comm buzz, as Prime's voice rings in his head, informing him that he needs him down in the underground chamber. Tersely, the boss Rex snaps him to fix his own fragging problems, since he's busy. Though holding firm, Optimus states this is not just a problem, it is the only way to save Cybertron, and it requires both of them, so he needs him here now. In spite of the urgency in Optimus's voice, Grimlock's roiling rage roars for him to tell the other bot to find someone else. Though, before he can, a new voice speaks up, Swoop, as he urges him to go help Optimus. Smirking slightly in his spike-tail form, Snarl seconds this, stating they've always known the Autobots need them even if they won't admit it, so now's the time to prove it, while Slug assures his boss that they'll be fine without him. Now go wipe Prime's aft for him. For a moment, Grimlock does not respond, though as his optics pass from one comrade to the next, he grunts his assent and orders them not to do anything stupid like go offline before he gets back. In response, the other three all give him resolute nods before closing ranks so that he can step away from the fight and begin charging towards the Hall of Records in his T-Rex form. Even killing a couple more Insecticons in the way fails to calm his fury, so that when he arrives at the underground chamber and returns to bot mode, he bitterly snarls that Prime asks too much of him. Recognizing the personal sacrifice Grimlock has made to be here, Optimus does not deny it, instead thanking him for his decision and gesturing for him to take hold of the other cable, as they will need to pull it in perfect synchronicity if they are to open this door. Growling that he's got it, Grimlock wastes no time gathering up the rope in his servos. Then on Optimus's call, they take a step, and another, and another. Even with the weight divided between them, the door still feels incredibly heavy, though by coordinating their movements, they are able to lift it, little by little, until they reach the brackets and secure the cables in place. In response, the great door rumbles, as though challenging the efficacy of their solution by trying to fall shut again, though, when it is unable to, it yields to their teamwork and remains open. For a moment, there is only the sound of their vents heaving as the two warriors set their optics on what was hidden beyond the doorway. A pitch-black, cavernous opening that leaves them just as uncertain as to what lays ahead as when the mass of metal was blocking it. In many ways, it resembles a space bridge, a portal to some far unknown they cannot see, or perhaps, if they were to be more pessimistic, the more of a great beast intent on swallowing them whole. However, even if that is the case, what they seek cannot be found behind them, so they must push forward, a sentiment Optimus makes clear as he rises to his full height and begins striding towards the entrance. Needing no words, Grimlock joins him, their movements a mirror of each other as they draw close. All around them, their heavy footfalls reverberate off the ancient metal, as though there were dozens of them, or perhaps only one. Then, after what feels like an age, the pair of leaders reach the threshold, and knowing there will be no turning back from this point, they share a brief glance, then step through it, and vanish into the darkness. And that's where we'll leave things for now. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave your thoughts, suggestions, or screams of rage in the comments below.